But in marriage, those are just the byproducts of real love. Sex alone is too shallow to be called love. Take a look at 1 Corinthians 13. Here's a description of love. Love is patient, love is kind, and is not jealous. Love does not brag, is not arrogant, does not act unbecomingly, does not seek its own, is not provoked, does not take into account a wrong suffered, does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. I get kids all the time asking me, do you think I'm in love? Here's a list of things. Let's check this against this list. What do you think? Well over half the time. You don't get through half those questions before. No, that doesn't describe our relationship. And the answer is, no, you're not in love. You might be infatuated, but you're not in love. But notice, there's not a mention of any butterflies in the stomach. There's no sensual feelings. There's no sex. That's not love. When people focus on physical feelings and physical acts, they don't spend the time they need to create the deeper, lasting bond that forms marriages and other relationships. You want to be blunt about it, you can get sex anywhere. But it's hard to find somebody who's willing to commit their lives to you. And because of the shallow nature of sensual relationships, people break up frequently. They form new relationships that don't last. And after a while they become callous. Because they know it's not going to last. Why is fornication wrong? Because it's selfish. You see that when people are describing it. They always talk about what they want. You wonder what the other person wants. Sex without marriage is a selfish act. Because people want the benefits of marriage without the responsibility. It's kind of the way most teenagers want to live their lives too. It demonstrates immaturity. In fact, this woman showed it. She originally found the site wanting to find some way to have sex without producing children. She was looking for a way to have for fun without responsibility. I suspect she realizes she's not responsible enough to have children. That's why she doesn't want them. And I don't think she can count on her boyfriend to be there for the next 20 years to help raise the children, so she doesn't want any. She might not want to really willingly verbalize that, but I think deep down she knows that. But children are the natural consequence of sex. Married couples, yeah, they'll do things to use contraceptives or something like that to control the spacing and number of children. But you know what? If a child unexpectedly comes along, what they call that? A blessing. Take a look at Psalm 127, verse 3. Which is why, Bruce, I knew that verse this morning. Psalm 127, verse 3. Behold, children are a gift of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. What do unmarried couples call it when a child suddenly unexpectedly develops? And oops, a disaster in the making. They don't look at it as a blessing. Why is that? Because they're doing it selfishly. Couples who have sex without being married are strongly motivated by self-gratification. It's a relationship of convenience. They have less tolerance for unhappiness. They won't put up with any difficulties. Especially not when there's no consequences to leaving. That's one of the things unmarried couples just don't understand. See, when something gets hard, what happens with an unmarried couple? One guy walks out the door. Why? Because there's nothing stopping him from going out the door. There's no bond. There's no commitment. There's no agreement. Oh, you might have said, I'm going to be here forever. Those are just words, and they just walk right out. In a marriage, at least, there is an agreement, there is a bond, and yes, people try to walk out of the marriage, but they end up spending years trying to get it all worked out. There is an incentive not to leave. But like I said, it's a selfish act when people have sex outside of marriage. Because they don't want the responsibility. And so they want to be able to just walk right out the door when things go rough. And this is the one that's probably strangest of all, that people can't get through their heads. It seems absolutely strange that something as motivated by pleasure results in unhappiness. But that's what happens. Do you think couples that break up all the time are happy that they got to break up? Take a look at Proverbs 5. Go back to that immoral woman. And let's go back to verse 4. Proverbs 5, verse 4. But in the end, she is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. In the end, it starts out looking like it's going to be fun. But in the end, in the long run, is bitterness. Remember what we started out with, is saying that God puts laws in there to protect us. See, sex is supposed to be fun. God made it that way. It's not fun when it's outside marriage. Not when the end result is unhappiness and bitterness. When people get hurt, their feelings hurt. In fact, people understand that. Here's some quotes that men have said. Cohabiting couples report lower levels of happiness, lower levels of sexual exclusivity, hard word to say, and sexual satisfaction, and poor relationships with their parents, which is a strange one to throw in with the rest of it. People who have sex outside of marriage have lower levels of happiness, lower levels of being only with one partner, and lower levels of sexual satisfaction. Wait a minute. Isn't that what they started? That's why they're doing it? It doesn't work. Because part of what makes sex fun is knowing that your partner is yours. And that you're committed to one another. But see, people that don't have it don't realize what they're missing. The annual rates of depression among cohabiting couples are more than 3 times what they are among married couples. And women in cohabiting relationships are more likely than married women to suffer physical and sexual abuse. Oh, they always talk about the mean husband that beats up his wife. There are more mean men in cohabiting couples. Far more. Because they have no commitment to the other person. 6% of married couples with children are living in poverty in the United States. 6. 31% of cohabiting couples are living in poverty. 45% of single mothers are living in poverty. Who has a better life? This is particularly interesting that I like to bring that one out when somebody tells me, we can't afford to get married. I say, we afford to live together. Actually, you can't afford not to get married. You want to put it the other way. When you get married, more people tend to do more successfully. Because you're working for somebody. The reason is very simple. When you have a marriage and you can depend on someone to be there to help you through hard times, it goes better. And it's happier. Take a look at Ecclesiastes chapter 4. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, starting with verse 9. What profit is there to a worker that from which he toils? I've seen the task which God has given to the son. Oops, I got 3. Ecclesiastes 4 verse 9. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. For if either one of them falls, the one will lift up his companion. But woe to the one who falls when there is not another to lift him up. Furthermore, if 2 lie down together, they keep warm, but how can one keep warm alone? And if one can overpower him who is alone, 2 can resist him. A 3-cord strand is not quickly torn apart. Part of marriage is companionship. Part of companionship is that you have somebody to depend on. Yes, there's times when one couple is down, the other side of the couple holds it together. When they go down, and the other side holds it up. What's the net result? As a group, they're happier. Or if they get unhappy, they don't stay that way very long. And there's no reliable support when one partner can just walk out the door. So what do we conclude? Fornication is a sin because God said so. And as we look at it from various standpoints, we see that God does know His creation. And men are getting around to say, you know what? He's right. It does work this way. Secular men are seeing the reasonableness of God's plan. So what about you? Do we question what God says? It's not bad to ask, well, why? That's a good question. And when you find out why and you still drag your feet, sometimes we got to understand that God tells us no. Okay, we do understand we don't do that. Then we can ask why. There's a reason for what God tells us. Every one of His laws are for our good, always. And this is no exception to the rule. I hope you'll think about these things. If there's anyone here who wishes to become a child of God, there is no better time than right now to put on Christ. And if there's anyone here who is a child of God, would like the prayers of brother on the behalf, why don't you come forward as we stand and sing the song for them.